Welcome, sports fans, to another edition of Play It Right. This is Quinito Henson, and unfortunately, our co-host Diane Castilla will not be able to join us. She's attending to a family emergency, but the show must go on, and we've got two very exciting guests today, and they'll be here to talk about this looming partnership between the PBA and the EASL, or the East Asian Super League. And our guests are none other than PBA chairman himself, Mr. Ricky Vargas, and the CEO of East Asia Super League, Matt Beyer. Mr. Vargas, first off, congratulations to the PBA. Live audience is back. I'm sure the players are so excited. Do you feel, Mr. Vargas, that we're coming close to normal conditions all over again?
I hope so. Ticket sales. We had a board meeting yesterday, and I asked about ticket sales, and then they're coming in. Only it's a little bit strict because you need to have this QR code from Quezon City, and you also have to be fully vaccinated to be able to enter, and limited seats. So we're excited about day one with audience with the crowd coming in.
And talking about excitement, the games have been exciting. The imports are back, and
Yeah.
we've got a big array of very talented imports. Justin Brownlee delivered once more. Ginebra was down 80% of the game against Alaska, but they managed to pull it off last Sunday.
Yeah, amazing. But one thing going on too. So the other teams are catching up. They're playing much better. Like Alaska is much better. Look at Terrafima. They've put together a very young, good team as well. No, so they're doing well. They're doing well.
I think it's an indication that the fans want to watch the games with the ticket sales being as they are. I think it's just an uphill. It's going to be an upswing here for the PBA from now on. But before we turn you over to the CEO of the East Asia Super League, Mr. Vargas, just your comments about this partnership between the PBA and the EASL.
We had a long board meeting yesterday, so I was really excited to talk to you. Right after the board meeting, we had a Christmas get together. So we stayed on till I left about 6:30. And during the Christmas discussion, just ask the board, we were talking about how we can send the best team we can send in the EASL. So with a few glasses of wine, we were saying, we should send the selection. We should be the first champion of EASL. We should show the rest of the team. Then people, but we should scout the teams that are joining. I heard they're very good teams. So it from that point of view, even the members of the board, and they were all there, were so excited about building the best team that we can put together. There was I don't know if I should share with you the private talks that we're having. So it says maybe the coach of the best coach, the champion coach of the first conference and the champion coach of the second conference should form their team. So then it was a long discussion, no? So we're just the excitement of looking at the team that we're going to build. Then we said, look, we have a commitment to build, to choose from the top four teams, no? Then so that's where we are. It's just the commitment to do our best and to be able to shine during that tournament. And it was, Matt, we now want to scout everybody to see whether we can,
Perfect.
and see how we can compete better. That's the Filipino love for basketball.
Does that mean, Mr. Vargas, that there is no surefire formula yet as to which teams will be representing the country in EASL?
Well, we're still looking at the top four, and in during that discussion, it could be the mainstay of the champion team, or any of the top four, and just add some players from the rest, as long as we can fix the schedules, that the teams are not, the games are not disrupted. we're committed to sending two teams, but we're looking at the best team we can send. Yeah.
And now we'll ask Matt Beyer, the CEO of EASL, first of all, to tell us about your feelings about this partnership with the PBA
May
before
I
you
add? May I
Mr.
add?
Vargas. Yes, please.
May I add? Sorry, Matt and Quinito. I just want to say that the ongoing theme there is we wanted to be the first champion of EASL. So the first will always be remembered, right, Quinito? So we
That
want to
sounds good.
we want to be that. So please don't tell the rest.
That sounds good, Mr. Vargas. Well, okay, now we turn you over to Mr. Matt Beyer. And Matt, first, your feelings about this partnership between the PBA and EASL, and then your reactions to what Mr. Vargas just disclosed. This brewing formula of forming two standout teams from the PBA to represent the country.
Well, first off, Chairman Ricky, it's a pleasure to see you, and I guess I should say that it's an honor to see you 10 days before Christmas. So I feel that we're spending the holidays together, at least in some capacity. I couldn't be happier, and I represent all of my colleagues to say that we couldn't be more thrilled regarding this partnership. It's absolutely amazing, and as I've said before, EASL would be quite boring if we didn't have our Philippine PBA friends involved in the format. So this is going to make history. We're going to improve the level of basketball, the production of games as a region together, and to really do some exciting things for Asian basketball fans. And of course, I love the attitude of wanting to get the first championship for EASL. I think that the PBA obviously has a huge fighting chance, especially beginning to scout the opponents early and to take such an aggressive stance. It reminds me of something that I just was reading today of having a mindset of always being on offense. And so that's I think that's going to serve the PBA well. And we think that there's going to be awesome games, and of course the PBA is going to win a ton of them.
Well, the question here, Mr. Beyer or Matt, if I may, will the EASL Advisory Board agree to this formula of the PBA sending two selection teams and not directly qualify the champion and the runner-ups of the different conferences?
Look, I mean, this is really something that the PBA needs to decide. From the advisory board perspective, we really would like to have the champion and runner-up from the Philippine Cup Conference. I mean, that's the simplest way to make this happen and be in line with the other leagues are doing. However, as I've explained before, plenty of times in interviews, is that it's important that we honor the partnership and think about the thoughts of both sides and both parties here. And if the PBA believes there's another way to have a great team sent, I think that the important thing is to have a strong team and the support of Philippine fans and the support of the media, and for a buy-in that where we have the whole country behind these teams. And so if that objective is achieved, I think that we're like fairly open with this model. Sometimes not everything can be extremely simple or cut and dry. So I think at this point we have an open mind.
Well, Mr. Vargas,
Thank you,
there
Matt.
you have it. Matt is giving his okay to whatever it is that the PBA board decides.
Thank you.
Mr. Vargas, just a question about the coming FIBA World Cup in 2023. How do you think this partnership of the PBA and the EASL will help the Philippines maybe get better organized, maybe get stronger in anticipation of the World Cup?
But there's also talks that maybe we should include the Gilas team,
Whoa.
and it's our national team, no? So because of our love for basketball, it makes us want to win and use this venue, which we respect a lot because it's the best team in the region, to bring our best as well. So that is also an option. So it will help us from from the standpoint of putting a team together. Yeah.
And talking about the FIBA World Cup, Matt, tell us about your own relationship with FIBA and how FIBA support is so critical in making EASL successful.
Absolutely. FIBA is our partner. FIBA recognizes EASL. We have a 10-year agreement with FIBA that is giving us exclusivity in the FIBA East Asia subzone plus the Philippines to operate this pan-regional club competition. And so we as EASL would not exist in the format that we do without FIBA support. And so where we are a commercial body and our objective is to operate an entertainment driven commercial club competition together with our league partners and to really make this a business success and obviously have a very strong core product. We are aligned with FIBA in the fact that we're all dedicated towards the development of basketball. So we want to see Philippine basketball get stronger. We want to see Asian basketball get stronger. We want to see more Asian teams make it to the final stages of the World Cup. And of course, we're very optimistic about in the future seeing at the Olympics the Gilas as well as other Asian teams represented in these major world competitions in the future. And we believe that EASL can be a part of the framework for making Asian basketball stronger.
Well, in line with developing basketball in the region, Mr. Vargas, this could also mean exposing our Filipino talent to those foreign leagues, just waiting to grab the best Filipino talents from our country. Do you think that the partnership that the PBA will have or is now enjoying with the EASL, will that lead to a better coordination perhaps with other leagues in Asia to prevent poaching?
Just a thought. Let me digress a bit on what Matt said. No? Maybe EASL could actually be helpful to hosting in the World Cup, Philippine hosting. They could probably bring in some expertise as well, that because of their relationship with FIBA. No, if they're open to talk about that. And on your question, Quinito, sitting in the table with the rest of the leagues in EASL can only bring good things, and that is better understanding and better opportunities to us for us to dialogue, and that in itself is very helpful in looking how we can manage talent in the region and respect the talents that each country has.
Is it a concern, Mr. Vargas, that a lot of these young Filipino players, fresh out of college, and some of them even in college, are going to Japan and now are being recruited by Taipei and maybe even Korea? Is it a concern for the PBA?
Well, one, it is a concern if they do not respect the contracts that they sign. That is a concern. But to stop them from doing so, I think the PBA has adjusted to that, and we are open to getting them back. So they have a 5-year time frame. So the first 2 years they can play outside, and if they decide to play another 3 years, that reaches to 5 years, and then they're allowed to come back and be able to join the draft. The PBA also has opened up its drafting process and has given more opportunities to fill foreigners to come in as well. So you will see that in the next drafting session. So it's a world where talent is valued, no? And we'd like to think that our competition the PBA competition makes them better, and we will compete on that basis of quality. But again, it's good to be able to respect each other's rights and not to poach when we already know that they are committed to a certain team. So following FIBA rules is always welcome. And all we need to do is sit down and say, let's follow FIBA rules. And that would be very helpful.
Matt, let's talk about the plans of generating support from outside of the region for EASL. And talking to you previously, you had mentioned that the likes of Baron Davis, Meta World Peace, Shane Battier are going to be supporting EASL in some way as ambassadors, as investors. What is your plan? What is the game plan of the EASL in creating this groundswell of support from beyond the region?
Sure. I mean, I think that we really have the opportunity to be a globally relevant sports league that originates outside of Asia. And so part of that is really to get some of these elder statesmen of the game who have achieved AllStar status or NBA champion status to really put their stamp of approval. If you look at Baron Davis, Meta World Peace, Shane Battier, these are all players that have signed long-term endorsement contracts with Chinese brands, have visited Asia, in various countries many times. They understand the love of the game. They understand the global nature of the game, and it's really, they're excited to be engaged. They want to both invest from a perspective of they believe that EASL is going to offer them strong financial returns, but also because they understand that there's so much of potential for the game to develop further in Asia, and that's where they want their legacy to be. And I'd like to say that in addition to those players, we have some much higher profile, larger partnerships that are on the horizon for the beginning of 2022, which I'm really excited to be sharing with everyone in the near future. But we will continue to engage the global basketball community in EASL. I think that it's very everyone agrees that this is now the century of Asia in the world. There's 65% of the world's population. Many countries, such as the Philippines, have a very young population. But at this time, like if you look at globally dominant sports leagues, they're either in North America or in Europe. And so we believe that we have the opportunity, with the support of great leagues like the PBA and the recognition of FIBA, to change that dynamic and to offer the world a very innovative, creative, entertainment-driven sports league property that's in Asia, for Asia, and by Asia.
Matt, the home and away format of EASL exposes these teams to different fans from different countries. We all know that there are a lot of Filipinos all over Asia. Do you see this being an advantage for the PBA teams or the Philippine teams playing in EASL? And do you think there's going to be some kind of reaction from the other countries saying that, wait a minute, why are Filipino fans jamming the stadiums where the Philippine teams are playing, even if it's not in the Philippines?
Well, I mean, look, like this is just the love of basketball in the Philippines. I mean, it's one of the Philippine basketball's greatest weapons. It's that crowd. I remember very clearly when Henry Cairns, my partner and our CFO, and we went to visit Yao Ming, the NBA legend, at his office in Beijing, as he's the chairman of the federation. And we sat with him and talked about all of the different countries involved. And he said, if China had the fans of the Philippines, I think we would be a top 10 team in the world. And so, that's a great testament to, from a legend of the most populous country in the world to say that about the Philippines.
Well, Mr. Vargas, what about that? What about that idea of Filipino fans jamming the venues and giving the Philippine teams that six-man support?
Well, it only motivates us to do better, and we love that. We'd love to see that, and we are asking all of them to come out and support us, right? So,
Well, Mr. Vargas, talking again about the PBA and the current Governors Cup, we're seeing a lot of high quality imports, NBA veterans on our shores. And I think this is a little bit of an introduction to EASL's competition level, except that in the EASL, there will be 2 imports per team. Now, as far as the PBA is concerned, do you think there will be a major adjustment if our Philippine teams were to get an additional import? Is that going to be good for the local players, or will it just mean an overall strengthening of the teams?
Quinito, we're always used to playing with imports, and we are able to define the role that they play. And 2 imports will really strengthen us. And we know these imports. I mean, we talked about that. Would you be willing to send Brownlee instead of import X? No, would you be willing to see whether this import and that import? So we now have 12 imports
Mhm.
that we can choose from. That can go through the EASL, and the years of hiring imports, we probably know who the best imports are and have coached these imports. So that would be an advantage, more of an advantage for us to be able to select the best import and play Philippine style basketball, and to play because they also know the Filipino players. So
Well, Matt, you were talking about meeting Yao Ming in China. Tell us about the Chinese situation. At the moment, the plan is to have Greater China represented in the 8-team league starting in October of next year. And one of the 2 teams from Greater China will be a franchised Hong Kong team.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate sometime in the future that the CBA itself will be represented in East Asia Super League?
Yes, 100%. I think right now that China is dealing with a very complicated situation with the COVID-19 pandemic controls on the border. It's very difficult for China to take part in any international events. In the recent FIBA window, when the Chinese national team went back from Japan, the players were submitted to what ranged between a 21 and 28-day quarantine, and no one anticipates that the international borders are going to open in China during 2022. So I speak with the commissioner of the CBA. His name is Mr. Zhang Xiong, and I speak with him on almost a daily basis. And the CBA is very excited about EASL, and they recognize that this is a really important thing for the region and something that would be very good for CBA teams to participate in. But we don't want to announce the format of a season rollout and not be able to deliver it and put that pressure on our partner leagues. And so we are talking about the CBA joining in either season 2 or when we expand from 8 to 16 teams in season 3. So it could be a mini expansion in season 2. That's when the CBA is good to join, or it could be a larger expansion as planned in season 3. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't be East Asia Super League if we didn't have China involved. And I know that China is excited to be involved, but we have to really understand the situation and our partners and be empathetic to them during this time, because I don't think that China wants to have its borders shut like it is, but they're very concerned about the pandemic. And you can all imagine, with a population of 1.4 billion people, how devastating it could be very quickly if that happened.
Well, these restrictions you talk about, Matt, are they restricted to the mainland? Will this also affect border controls in Hong Kong and Macau?
Hong Kong is more likely to open up quickly. I mean, there's a lot of major international events that are scheduled for as early as March next year, and so Hong Kong is a city that has about 15% international population, and so there's a lot of pressure for Hong Kong to maintain its status as an international city and to open the borders in some sort of a staged capacity. And sports is a big consideration. As many people know, that during the Tokyo Olympics, Hong Kong's delegation had a very successful Olympic medal run, which I think they took home 6 medals, and that was the first time ever that's happened. And so sports is emphasized by the highest levels of government more than ever, and there's a lot of exceptions to quarantines and pandemic restrictions that are being given for sporting events. So I'm very confident about the situation in Hong Kong.
And what are the probabilities that the EASL inaugural season will finally reel off in October of next year?
I think that, I I mean, I have to be honest, is that I would say that before a big announcement of all of the partnerships with the leagues on December 1st, which also included our general schedule dates and that information about those NBA investors that we have. I had days where my head was filled with questions and some doubts about things. And I think after that announcement, and as of today, we've had over 450 articles, and we've reached almost 3 billion people globally with this news. And the outpouring of joy and support for EASL around the globe is so huge. And I think that people just want to see exchange again. So I think that it's going to happen. I think we have the momentum and the support. And I think that with at least the majority of the geographies, that people are trying to get back on their feet in terms of travel. I mean, you can see it now with PBA and allowing fans back in. And, Philippines has done a ton to restrict quarantine or to cut down on the quarantine restrictions that were there previously. And I think that the rest of the geographies in Asia are following suit. And we should see when we get into February, March, April, a lot of changes on the horizon. It's very hard to bottle people up in this day and age for 2 years plus at a time. And we have to be aggressive with this planning. I think the world is ready for a recovery.
Mr. Vargas, the planned opening of EASL is in October of next year. How will the PBA adjust its schedule to accommodate the Wednesday games in the EASL? Even perhaps the Governor's Cup or the third conference will be playing in October also of next year.
Yeah, outside of the board, we were talking about that because I was saying we need to be able to determine what team we should send to be able to actually finalize and accommodate the schedule. No? If it's the top 2 teams, that's easier because you only disrupt the 2 teams and the scheduling will be easier. If it is a selection of the top 4 teams, that's more difficult because it affects the other teams as well. So even if you take one of the best players of the other team, it affects their playing time. The other thing that we're discussing is, do we send Gilas, because Gilas also the national team wants to be able to be exposed to competition such as the EASL, and Gilas itself is saying now, is recognizing that playing in the EASL is good competition for them as well. No, so we were only saying that, yeah, while it's good competition for you guys, we want to win. No, it's not practice, right? So, it's hard if it is practice. No, so that's the point. So we will adjust once we come out with the formula on the team, and we are conscious about that. And our scheduler Eric is and deputy commissioner is working very hard on that, and we will soon be able to make that decision sometime February or March.
In your heart of hearts, Mr. Chairman, what would you like to be the formula of sending our representatives to the EASL?
Well, we want the best team, right? So never mind about. We're not talking about the next season. We're talking about this season in October. So and if the best team formula is the core of the champion team because they played very well, then that should be, and just add up a few more players from the four teams, then that should be the best for us, right? So if that's the best. So and on the imports, we play with the best team has played with the imports that they have. So we need to be able to look at the imports as well. So I'm very serious about the import selection. I'm sure
Matt,
EASL will have great imports coming in, right?
for sure, for sure, the other teams will be coming in with high quality imports. But talking about the high caliber competition in the EASL, Matt, if you can tell us a little bit about the franchised Hong Kong team. We understand that's going to be like a star laden team.
Yeah, I mean, that team has received a lot of attention and interest from various Chinese free agents, both mainland China, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong. I can just tell you that this team is really it's symbolic in the fact that it's really representative of China's Greater Bay Area, which is sort of the area of Hong Kong, Macau, and the Guangdong province in the south of China, which is a huge populous region of over 100 million people, and it's really a symbol of integration of more Hong Kong into mainland China going forward, and we look at this team as a team that in the future could play in the CBA officially, as well as EASL competition. And as it stands right now, there's a lot of players and their agents that have been hitting us up about playing on this team because they like the idea. They also like that the team is going to be going around the world and playing in Australia, North America, Europe, and playing against some of the world's best competition as an international face of Chinese basketball. And so I can't say some of the names of the players, but I can just assure you that many of them are on Chinese national team. Some have had time in the NBA. It's going to be a bad ass team. That's what I can say.
And what about the coach? Can you give us a little bit of a hint as to who that coach may be?
I mean, I would love to, but I would get him in trouble if I said too much. But let's just say that it's a coach who has accomplished many championships at the club level and has achieved medal winning in international competition as well. So very highly coached team.
Well, before we wrap up this discussion, Mr. Vargas, one last question about exposing the PBA beyond the Philippine borders. How will the PBA take advantage of this marketing-wise?
Well, we can share with whatever Matt brings into the table. No, seriously, we are already being broadcasted in China. You know that the PBA team is being broadcasted. Some of the PBA games are broadcasted in China. So because of that, there are some sponsors that are coming in, especially now. I cannot mention their names, but the more recent one is coming in to not only to do 5-on-5 but also to do 3-on-3. I'd wish EASL can also think about going on 3-on-3, no? So that and then that would be helpful because the PBA is already on 3-on-3. The marketing of the product and the exposure of the product is huge, especially for consumer companies in its exposure. It goes now beyond the PBA. It becomes regional in all countries that they play with. No? So, and the loyalty becomes stronger, especially when they play at home. The fans will develop greater affinity to the team that has been sent. So that is a big help also in generating fans for the team that is sent. So a lot of opportunities, Quinito. Those are just a few of them.
Well, my last question to Matt is, again, the marketing or the exposure that EASL will will be given through this platform is going to be immense. How do you think the rest of the world will react to this sleeping giant that is EASL at this point?
I think that the world is going to be very excited about it. I think that obviously the on the court product is going to be top notch. The best presentation of Asian club basketball that's ever been done before. So no one can argue that it's going to be an electrifying and dynamic presentation of basketball. But I think that we're also the technology solutions that are going to be integrated, the entertainment into it, and then the side content and the 24/7 availability of entertaining content for the fans to enjoy. Who are their favorite stars, learn about stars from other geographies, to really experience the game in ways that haven't been done before is just going to be very exciting. And I think that we're going to, because of that, draw in new fan bases that it's not just going to be, male fans in their 20s and 30s. It's going to be families, women, we want to increase those demographics and to get people hooked at a young age and to really see basketball as part of their lives. So, and there are going to be elements of this equation which we lead the world in. So, I mean, if think about K-pop, and 10 years ago, you would have never thought about K-pop filling up a stadium in Los Angeles, but now it sells out, tours across all of North America and Europe. So I think that there's going to be elements of EASL that are like that. And it's going to be wildly commercially successful for everyone involved.
I'm talking about the passion of fans for basketball in the region, especially in the Philippines. During our press conference involving the PBA and EASL, there were two suggestions from Philippine media about the possibility of EASL putting together an all-star weekend and perhaps even a women's league. And Matt, I think you were surprised that some of our friends from media came up with some brilliant ideas for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea of having 3-on-3, like Chairman Ricky just mentioned, and also for having women's competition are things that we should be thinking about once we get our core products solidified. Being able to integrate new player bases and new products into this whole regional ecosystem is really important. And, if you're not innovating and adding to the quality of your product and producing new offerings for the fans, you're essentially regressing. So we want those ideas to keep flowing and we want to adopt them.
From now until October of next year, what can fans expect from EASL? Will there be a preseason tournament? Will there be a lot of content available in social media and in mainstream media?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have to look at what's feasible with with planning at this stage. I would say on the court, wait until the debut of the season. I would say off the court and online, there's going to be a ton of content, and we've already had great support from the PBA and the marketing and PR departments on our efforts in the Philippines with that. But I think that we want to have a period before leading up to the season where Filipino fans are able to really understand who are the main players and who are the top teams in the other leagues, and to also educate people in the other geographies, what is the PBA and who are the main players, and get people excited about this and understand the personalities and the legends and the emotions that go into the game across the region. So a lot to be expected in the digital space.
Quinito, that's a good question.
Yes.
And if EASL will permit, we're open to inviting a team from the EASL to guest in the PBA, one of the PBA conferences. We start in March. No, there might probably be a new conference in March, so that would that would be very interesting to see whether we can work in that kind of a partnership.
I think Chairman Ricky, I would love to do that for our Hong Kong-based Phoenixes and talk about that further. So I think that would be awesome. I think that it would really be a great way to get this a greater China presence in the PBA and to really draw in a huge Chinese fan base into the PBA and also really to get see inter-regional basketball on a regular basis. So let's talk about that further, please.
Well, that's amazing, because on this show, Play It Right, we heard a very brilliant idea coming from Chairman Vargas that has total support from Matt Beyer, and to have an EASL team. And yes, that franchise in Hong Kong would be a very welcome addition to heighten the competitive level in the PBA.
Absolutely. Amazing idea.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Beyer, Matt, can you give us your final message to our viewers, the Filipino fans who are eagerly anticipating the start of the EASL?
Yeah, I would just like to say, first off, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone. 2021 has been a rough year for everyone. And I think 2022 is going to be a lot brighter. And not only do we have a great Governor's Cup going on right now and EASL around the corner, but we have this great partnership to celebrate. And just please pay attention. There's a lot of noise coming up, and we really love your support and are grateful for it.
And Mr. Vargas, again, congratulations to the PBA, bringing in the live audience. And thank you for sharing some tidbits about the board meeting just the other day. But your final message, Mr. Vargas, to the fans of the PBA, to all those who are watching us right now.
Well, the dream was to bring back the fans in the Coliseum, and we're able to achieve that in December 15. We're bringing back the fans on December 15, and they will be watching, and there will be fans in Araneta Coliseum. 2022 will be even bigger. We have EASL. We have hopefully back to 3 tournament conferences, and we have the World Cup qualifiers, and that will be in February. So 2022 will be a busy year for basketball, and will be a busy year for the Philippines to show what it can do in international basketball. So thank you, Matt, for all the exposure you've given us so far. I think the fans are excited, but more importantly, I never saw an excited Board of Governors in our Christmas party. And one thing that it has done, and I told them this, one thing it's done, we're not talking anymore about 12 teams in silo. We're now talking about a PBA team. So isn't that great? Whether it is one of the silo team that represents us, at the end it's the PBA team. And we are all willing to put that logo on top of a San Miguel logo and say, we are PBA, right? So that's one amazing thing that this has done. I never saw that when we started talking to you guys. But you know how competitive our governors are, and now it's become a PBA team. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful news. And I think EASL in itself is also a galvanizing league for different countries, for different leagues. So unity coming from the different leagues like the PBA, but under the umbrella of the EASL to even create that bigger unity within the region. Thank you very much, Chairman Vargas. Thank you very much, Mr. Beyer, for this opportunity to talk to you about this partnership between the PBA and the EASL. This is Quinito Henson, and I hope you enjoyed another presentation of Play It Right.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.